is you are not divorcing him. You are divorcing the old version of you who attracted that relationship.
And if not him, I also wouldn't become the person I am now.
So what makes connections last? But how can you be in constant state of love?
You start to understand that you want to live differently.
We create our own states of being. It's not the husband, it's not the wife.
Like, what can they do to make sure that it won't work out? And when you respond with love, you get love.
He will be like, what is she smoking? Like, she's different. Relationships are the tools for us to know ourselves. So that's why, I think the therapeutical part for every couple that's going through some critical moments in their relationships would be.
Hi everyone, my name is Lily Boiko and Mira Uniat, and today is an exciting day because we're embarking on a journey with our first podcast called Eternally Fantastic. We decided to share this information because I'm now dealing with going through a divorce after a 15-year-old relationship. Marriage, and Mira is my friend whom I know for 20 years, and she was helping me a lot to deal with my fears and state of guilt and fear of the unknown, which is in front of me. And we decided that this information would be also very helpful for other men, women who go through similar stuff and who want to become more self-aware. And also because I'm from Ukraine and Mira as well, a lot of Ukrainians had...
I like saying made in Ukraine, blossoming in Canada.
And me in the United States now. But we live really close in Seattle and Vancouver, so we'll get together to make more of this podcast soon. And a lot of Ukrainians had to move because of the war, and their marriages were split up. And now we see, after 1.5 years of war, that a lot of couples are splitting. The war has had become a catalyst when you start to understand that you want to live differently. You don't want to put up with things that you have used to do many years before, because we have only one life and we want to live it to the fullest, and that's what happened to me. We had some things that I wanted to improve in my relationship for years, but now I understood that that's the time when I have to make a decision, and it was a hard decision for me. And thank you, Mira, for supporting me on this journey after I made it. And now I'm very excited to see what's waiting for me there, and to develop myself, to become more self-aware of my thoughts and some negativity which I have in my head, to change it to positive vibe. And so my first question for Mira would be how to go through separation and let go a person with love, not to have any negative feelings for him or some aggression, and how to make this split uncoupling the most easier, if I can say that, for both of people in the couple.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to start from the fact that I was at your wedding.
Right.
And I remember that beautiful day. And I know your husband, ex-husband, very well. He's a friend of mine. And as much as I would want you guys to work on it and, make things work out, like I also want you and him to be happy. Actually, that's a bigger desire that I have than you being together. Like I want him and you to be happy. But I also know that happiness requires equal amount of inner work from both sides. So I was really happy when you reached out to me and asked to help you to, be happier. Actually, it was not about guiding you through a divorce. It's about helping you to deal with your inner state of being. Because let's be honest, divorce for a lot of people, it's not fun. And a lot of people are going through really difficult times. Depression, stress, anxiety, animosity, anger. All of those energies and emotions are actually destroying our body. So if he reached out to me and said, hey, Mira, how can I go through that? I would be equally helping him as well. I want you to know that it has nothing to do with me helping you to go through divorce. It's about helping you dealing with your inner state of being that you are not enjoying, okay? Because in essence, what divorce is you are not divorcing him. You are divorcing the old version of you who attracted that relationship. Mm-hmm. So actually it has nothing to do with him in reality. Because he's a beautiful being, he's a wonderful soul, and I'm sure you had a lot of beautiful moments with him. But just like everything in the universe, there is always an expiry date for any process in this physical reality. And, there is also the need sometimes, a need to detach. And whatever decision he is making, whatever decision you're making in your life, I will help you to feel better in that process because I know how it worked for me. I mean, I've never been married and I don't have children. And I've been in relationships and I trained that muscle of forgiveness and compassion and arriving to that state of being where there is no negative emotion attached to those phases and experiences that I went in those relationships. And now when I look back at all of my wonderful ex-boyfriends, hi to all of them, I love all of them in a way, and I'm grateful for those experiences that we had because relationships are the tools for us to know ourselves. And 3 years ago, I had a very deep connection with someone who had a very huge impact on who I am today as a being. If he ever watches this video, I'm saying hi to him and expressing huge gratitude and love. He will always be a very special being in my heart because in that connection, I actually let myself to fully fall in love. And through love, I found my truth. I found those instruments within myself that help me to now choose the states of being I want to be in. I will never let my mind to talk bad stuff about anyone.
Right, me too. Like my husband or ex-husband is like a very nice man, a decent man, and I respect him for everything he did for me. And if not him, I also wouldn't become the person I am now, which I feel I'm better than like a year ago, 2 years ago, or 15 years ago when we met. So yeah, there were a lot of beautiful moments that we shared, but now I feel that it's time to move on because we don't see stuff in the same direction as we used to.
So what makes connections last and what actually creates that longevity in a relationship? I think it's a constant work on your inner world and expansion of your perception, expanding your consciousness and level of awareness that you have of your inner states of being. And I think if people are not working on their inner happiness, there is not much to contribute to relationship, right? Then they relate based on their anger or based on their being upset or sadness. And connections don't last long on those frequencies. Connections last on love. But how can you be in constant state of love? Because this physical reality just takes us from ups and downs, right? So once we train that muscle to come back to the state of love, then we will know that it's all us. We create our own states of being. It's not the husband, it's not the wife. Like, I will never blame anyone for the way I feel.
Yeah, but if you say that, then is there a difference who is with you? Like, can you feel happy with, you can't feel happy with any person who's with you, right? Because you're like trained yourself to be happy inside, and it doesn't depend on who's your.
Yeah.
But still couples split because they don't feel this connection. So what's that connection?
Yeah, good question. So in my case, I know where I'm floating, like I know where I'm swimming. Like, I have a vision for life, which actually I found during my awakening, which was triggered by this deep connection I had with this man. So I know where I'm swimming. So now I'm kind of like, whoever is in contact with me, I am offering them a job.
Interviewing
Yes.
for the job.
Yes. Because I know where I'm going and my vision is very all-encompassing. Like, I have something to share with the world. And for example, I'm not the best at social media and all this stuff. And I know that you're very super talented. I knew I will meet someone in my network who will love this stuff and will create the platform where I will be able to share something that helped me. In essence, we're all helping each other. So basically, I know where I'm going, right? So I have the idea or a vision for my life. And then according to that, I can recruit a husband, I can recruit a guru in marketing, It's just because now I know where I'm going, I know the criteria that each role will have, like each character in my movie, like how they should talk, how they should behave, right? And then I can even, the first time I see the person, I kind of see if there is potential there to fill the vacancies I have open, if that makes sense. Yeah. But it all comes down to the clarity of where you're moving. The problem is that a lot of people, they don't know where they're going.
And then even don't think about it.
Yes. They don't think about, and that's fair enough because they're so busy with the survival aspects of life, They are so busy to make more money, to build a better house, a lot of things happening. And I'm not saying that those things are not important, but if you're so preoccupied with the survival aspects of life, it's really hard to create something beautiful. Because creation, it requires an idea. It starts from an idea. It's a spark that you go, wow, like that would be cool to help all human beings on planet Earth to feel this love for life, and be eternally fantastic. Like, that would be amazing. And because I trained that muscle within me and I found those tools that work for me, like, I would want every human being to experience that and shares it with the world, right? And share it through the avenues and mediums that they are good at. Like, for example, you're amazing at this. That's why we're doing this.
We just came up with this idea a day ago. And then I say, come, we'll shoot the first podcast.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to that question. when if one person in a couple understand that he wants to get more self-aware and begins to work on it, and understand that they have some difficulties in their marriage, maybe some connection problems, can he influence like the second person to change? Like, because I think why a lot of marriages stay together long time being not happy is because one of them think that another one would eventually change, and then they wait for a year, 5 years, 10 years, nothing changes, and then they think that they just lost like 10 years of their life. So is it possible for the second person to change, or like should, when people think of a divorce, like what can they do to make sure that it won't work out?
Lila, I think I told you this before, that it all comes, if you think that you are self-aware, you should actually do more self-awareness work. Because they're like, oh, I'm self-aware and he is not. You know, that actually speaks about you being not aware of yourself and your even judgment that he's not self-aware. Because your self-awareness comes from your full acceptance of the way he is, where you wouldn't change a thing in him. Okay? And you just see him the way he is, you appreciate all of his sides, just the way you appreciate all of parts of you, because you've done your inner work, you fell in love with all parts of you. You became an observer of them. You learned the content, the existing content of what's within yourself. You learn to embrace and fall in love with all your fears, by the way, as well. Because I'm not saying that fear frequency is bad, but it's okay if there is fear. If a coyote is chasing you, of course, you need to feel fear to run. So the question is how long you dwell in that frequency, right? And training that, okay, this is my fear. And there is no reason for it, so I want to dismantle it. So that step by step you dismantle it in everyday relationship, communication. You actually dismantle that which you don't enjoy by changing your perception of yourself and changing the perception of this being that is with you, who is with you, based on your expanded awareness now, right? Which means ultimately you will never try to change him. And you will see him the way he is, okay? But also because now you know your journey and you know that it is possible to change, you will start seeing that potential in him and how you will increase your faith. That's why all religions talk about faith, right? So the strength of your faith or the belief that you have in someone is equal to the level you believe in yourself. So if you believe that you are able to change, that you are able to change every little perception of him that you have, that you don't enjoy, for example, that you want to change in him, in essence, it's not about changing him, it's about how you perceive that part of him. Like, what is it within yourself that triggers you? Look there. Don't look at him, like shift your attention inwards and ask yourself, why is it triggering me? Now, if there is a long history of both people in a relationship of being unaware, and only now you open this box of like, wow, like I am becoming more aware of myself, you know, like I see my reactions, I see my triggers. But there is a bank of memory of these years of moments when you were not aware. Sometimes for couples it's just very difficult to jump in and create new perceptions on the fly and on the spot day to day. That's why it would be very beneficial if two partners would just disconnect for a certain period of time and both do inner work. whether it's with a counselor or with someone who kind of shares some interesting perspective, that I actually focused on inward, attention inward. Nothing wrong with your wife, it's your perception of her. Nothing wrong with your husband, it's your perception of him, right? And then you change, you come back, when you feel like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to see him differently. Like I am ready to see his potential to perceive world and more expanded, with more expanded consciousness. But coming back, it was like, okay, like I'm a new version of me and I'm more self-aware and he is not. It's like, hey buddy, I'm now in grade 12, but you are stuck in grade 5, so let's end it. It doesn't work like that. It works when like you are actually becoming an embodiment that you're in grade 12, which means full acceptance of the fact that he maybe chooses to be in grade 5. Maybe he is enjoying to be in grade 5. There is nothing wrong with that, if that makes sense.
So if a marriage lasts, depends only on when people both decide to like evolve. But when one of them evolves, becomes more self-aware, and another doesn't want to do any inner work, then it can't work.
It's just difficult to make things work. If one of the people in a relationship is still very much explaining reality and looking for the reason the way they feel, whether it's in you or in external reality, job, wives for husbands, for example, or for wives, like something wrong with him. Like I want to leave him because something wrong with him.
Blaming everything around.
Yeah. So I think it's a different way when you say, hey, I think I need to do some inner work on myself, because the way I'm perceiving you and the way I'm perceiving our connection and the world, I'm not enjoying my perception. It has nothing to do with you. I need to work on my perception of reality. And to do that, I actually need to disconnect, and all those neurological networks that were engaged in perceiving him and digesting the flow of information between you and him, those networks need to relax. They need to have a break because they've been activated for all these periods of time, right? In order for new networks to start working. So you need the old ones to almost melt and dissolve. And then once you feel like, okay, I am perceiving him and the world completely differently, now I'm ready to come back. If that's what you want, right? It's an example was with me when I started experiencing my shift in my consciousness and expansion in my consciousness. My soul's calling was to go to the village where I grew up in Ukraine, to that environment that created those neurological networks of how I was perceiving on autopilot, how I was perceiving reality. So when I started seeing the truth and realizing that I'm creating this experience of life based on my perception of life, and I want to enjoy life, I want to be in love with my life, how can I create more love within myself? And I realized that the only way to achieve that would be to change my perception of life and clean up my lens of perception. The way I perceive people, the way I perceive my jobs, the way I perceive this wonderful man that I was very much in love with, and actually I'm still in love with him. Do I want to be with him in a relationship? At this moment, I don't want to be with him in a relationship, but I love him. I truly do. And so coming back to my story, where I started seeing that is actually I am creating this reality and I am creating it based on my perception. Now, with this knowledge that I have, let me see if I can apply it when I go back into that environment where my old perception was created, and start training that muscle to see the same things differently, to see my father differently, to see my sisters differently, to see this village where I grew up differently. Because I remember I was not enjoying myself. Yeah, so it is really important to, once you feel like your perception starts changing, going back to that old environment where your old self was created, and see if you actually see it differently now. So that's what I did with myself when 3 years ago I started experiencing these changes within myself. I felt this urge within myself to go to the village where I grew up and start seeing the beauty there, because I remember my childhood was not the easiest one, to say the least. When I was 3 years old, my grandfather died. When I was 6 years old, my mother died. And then we stayed with my mother's mother, my grandmother, for 3 years, and then she died. And then after that, my uncle died, and it was a lot of death that I was exposed to, and that triggered this existential dimension in me, like this question: where do we go when we die, and why we come here? And I started writing poetry and things like that, and then that's why, like, throughout my life, like, this question never left me, and I always, like, deep within, like, I was looking for these answers, which I was able to find only 3 years ago. What really happens when we exit the physical body and things like that. So all of that was happening during awakening, right? But I was just realizing that I am creating this reality, like both negative thoughts and positive thoughts. I'm creating them. So how I train my mind in a way where at least I create the illusions that I enjoy. And how can I train my mind to perceive people from a broader perspective, from perspective of love, and that they are also looking for love. They are all looking for peace and joy, and to experience the highest frequencies possible, right? That's what the soul comes here for, or individualized consciousness, right? Like, wants to expand. Expansion of consciousness means expansion of perception. Expansion of perception means full acceptance of people the way they are. Like, you're not a resistance to the way they are. Only then you can actually love them, truly love them. Because if you are saying that there is something wrong with someone, you're not accepting him the way they are, which is difficult actually to love him. So if we talk about conditional love, unconditional love, love cannot be conditional or unconditional. It's either there or it's not. There is either acceptance or resistance. There is either love or there is something else, So that's why, like, I think the therapeutical part for every couple that's going through some critical moments in their relationships would be to actually disconnect, and disconnect not to look for a replacement, but actually disconnect for both of them. If they really want to fix things, like, they need to disconnect from each other and do inner work in parallel. He is working on him, she is working on her. And then when they start feeling, wow, like, I start seeing it from a higher level. I start seeing it from a broader perspective. And I increase my self-awareness. Now I can actually be more compassionate toward him, right? When, for example, he is not in a mood that he is enjoying. Like, you actually see, it has nothing to do with me. Like, you don't kick in with your defense mechanism and say, oh no, but you said that, la 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 la. It's like, honey, I know you're not enjoying your state of being right now. I love you anyways. I'm gonna do my yoga right now. Like, instead of, like, he's saying, yeah, like, this meal is not tasting good, or like whatever shit they come up with.
How could you say that? I spent an hour making it.
Yeah. It was like, oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that. I love you anyways. Maybe your taste receptors are not in the best state of being right now. So let's disconnect. I'm going to go do my yoga. I'll talk to you when, I am in a giving state and you are in a giving state. And you kind of approach it with a conscious understanding that has nothing to do with the food I cooked, actually. It's his state of being that he is not enjoying. And because I feel compassion to him, he's not enjoying himself right now. Why would I compile something extra on top of what he already feels? But a lot of couples, they actually dwell in this They constantly defend each other in front of each other.
In these emotions.
Yeah.
That they, and it's so hard to like when you get some negative like emotion on you from someone else, it's so hard to just stop and analyze why did he have that, and like not to fight back but to like tell through love.
You just you don't see him psychologically attacking you. You see him as a being who's not enjoying himself. Like, I call it pain, right? What do you do when somebody in front of you falls and breaks their knee, for example? You come and help them. It's like, oh, do you need help? So the same thing happens in our mental space, right? When the person is not enjoying himself, this energy lets itself out in that shape and form. But wise women, instead of hearing the words, they feel the frequency. They feel, well, my babe right now is not enjoying himself. I know it has nothing to do with me because I'm goddess. Always. Always. Which means I'm always love, right? So I just will let him, go through that stage, and I'm just gonna go do me. And I'm saying, honey, I love you anyways. Like, it doesn't matter what you're saying right now, let me hug you. He will be shocked because his nervous system is expecting you to fight back. Right. Because that's the way he is wired now, right? His neurological network right now is wired in a way where he is expecting you to defend yourself, which means he's expecting you to fight back. So he's already ready to respond. But if you're not fighting back and you come and hug him, he will be shocked. And this will be the beginning. You're going to reprogram him through the level of your awareness. Because now you are not triggered. Like, if you are not triggered, you're always love. And it just depends. How much are you committed to this connection? How much work do you want to put in to this connection? And if for 15 years, all of this wiring happened, and like it's almost on autopilot. Your responses are on autopilot. So it can be a gift for you in a way as well. If you start being committed, it was like, I want to rewire myself to respond differently. Like, how I can always be love. Like, it can be also a fun adventure for you. Or if it's like, screw that. Like, I feel I am not a resource to be that. I need to do inner work. Like, I can't respond differently. Then you disconnect and, figure out what you want to do with your life and act accordingly. I mean, I will never tell people what to do in their lives, and I will never tell them what they need to think, but I will tell them how it works, how the communication happens, how conflicts happen, how our perception of this person happens. And first and foremost, it all comes down to how much you are aware of the reason he is the way he is. It all comes down to your own awareness of why you are like that. Why are you feeling this way? And then when you are in that state of being, why you are acting accordingly, right? If you are in a state of fear because somebody is attacking you, of course because our human mind is so programmed for survival. Its job is just to predict and survive, right? So the autopilot response would be to defend back because your mind sees him as a threat. Now, it's okay when you are somewhere in the forest and you are being chased by a lion. That's fine to be in that state. But if you are in a 15-year relationship and that emotion is being triggered all the time, I mean, it just becomes a second nature.
You feel it all the time with this person.
Yeah, and then how do you expect to feel love if you feel that? If you feel like neurologically, your body is a constant state of like perception that you need to defend yourself. It's hard to love in this. That's why when relationship just starts, your mind hasn't collected enough data about this being, right? And it's like this beautiful period of time when you just, just love,
It's
just
ideal.
yeah, it's ideal. That's why I think that the worst things that people can do after breakup is to find a replacement because they will repeat the same thing until they dismantle the old perception, until they dive within and they see things differently, right? They see, okay, when I am in a state of insecurity, or I am in a state of fear or depression, anxiety, anger, my thoughts are like this. And thoughts like this produce this type of actions, including the way I talk. So if I start feeling differently in the same circumstances, it will start creating different thoughts, which will start creating different words and different actions. The example, again, hypothetically, a wife cooks the meal that the husband's like, yeah, it doesn't taste good. And maybe he had a shitty day at work. And, he was dwelling in that emotion for a long time, and he comes back home. It actually has nothing to do with your food. But because he's saying it doesn't taste good, and the wife spent her energy and time to cook it, she's like, he's not appreciating me. So she takes it as
already not just about the food, but it's about me.
She's taking it in her, like as if something wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
But a queen or a goddess would say, I know my food is the best because I cooked it with love. That's my truth. That's my intention. I'm very pure with my intention, which was love. So I know my babe had a bad day at work. Probably somebody said something like he's going through something. So I'm going to give him space. And I will choose to be quiet here. Instead of telling him, you are so-and-so, you're not appreciating me and stuff like that, because this will be an attack. And he's expecting you to do that because that's how his brain is wired, right? You actually give him love. It's like, babe, like I meant love with this food. I'm sorry if it doesn't taste good. I'm going to go do my yoga. Or like, I'm just, like you be love.
And when you respond with love, you get love.
He will be like, what is she smoking? Like she's different. But it takes a tremendous work for the woman to get there, where nothing triggers you. And the reason why nothing triggers you is that you dive so deep within yourself, you analyze all your own states of being and how you acted and how in your past you attacked unconsciously, attacked him as well, because it goes both sides, right? Because you did it too. If he does this, you did it too, because you are a mirror to each other. It's just it starts a different process and a different vibe and dynamics in communication, right? When you start responding differently. But that process can be initiated only when you start treating yourself differently, right? When you start being compassionate toward yourself, when you start falling in love with your body, with every part of you, when you are listening to your body, and you're listening to your mind, to your thoughts. And when your mind freaks out, you talk to yourself like, I understand these are the thoughts I'm having right now. Where is they coming from? Come here, poor baby Lila, like this little mind of mine. Why are you thinking this way? Like you talk compassionately, right? This is the feminine energy when you are actually, instead of fixing it, you are observing it without judgment. It's there. You slow down, right? You're not trying to fix it. What majority of people are doing, as soon as the feelings are uncomfortable, they go party, they go have, fun, like they're running away from it, they're numbing it. So they're not becoming aware of it. They're numbing it until it compounds to the level where it happens more and more and more often. It grows into depression or like this panic attacks or whatever. And then it's like, it's like when you're driving your car and first one thing pops up and like showing, okay, you need to do this with your car. You keep driving like that, you just disregard it. Then at some point your car will stop driving, like it just will stop if you don't address it. So that's what happens with majority of people, where they achieve like such bottom in their life where they can't even drive this vehicle, physical vessel anymore, right? So relationships in a way are just tools for us so that we don't get to the point where we can't drive our vehicle anymore, physical vehicle, right? It just gives us little lessons every day where it reveals the areas within ourselves where we're not free, where we need to shed some light on. It's like, okay, why I was triggered here? He didn't punch me, he didn't call me words, until maybe I started attacking him, because that can happen in relationships too. So why I'm triggered right now? What is it within myself that he touched that, made me upset? And here we have to be very cautious with the language. We should never say that he made me upset. We should say, I am upset because I perceived him this way. So it's actually my perception that made me upset, my perception of him. So I perceived him as a threat. So that put my nervous system into a state where I had to defend myself. In a way, it's a stress, right? Nobody enjoys it. If you dwell it for the long period of time, it's like, screw this relationship doesn't work. But in a way, it's your inability to actually change your response to initial triggers. You just keep compounding shit that you don't even like in this connection, this relationship. You get addicted to the emotions and to the life that you don't even like. It's like an addiction. And that's okay.
And that's why I think when someone in a couple initiates the talk about divorce, the second one might be also feeling that like his marriage is not so happy, but he is so much attached because of all those years together that it's just his, I think he is used to, and he doesn't want to see the truth, and to improve something. He just wants to hold on to that familiar...
To what he knows, to the familiar state, right? Because for the mind, anything that's unknown is fear, it's scary, right? So at least let me have this because I know this.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't enjoy it, but it's a safe area in a way, right?
So I think a lot of couples do that, especially like our parents, maybe, those...
Except my father, he was married 5 times.
He's unique.
And I think because I was raised in that vibe where, relationships it's a journey. It doesn't mean, it's wonderful when you can be with someone for the rest of your life. I admire those couples. But for me, the true success is that the happiness they radiate as a couple. Like when you walk into the room and they're a power couple, I was like, wow, this love that they feel for each other and the love they feel for life, they actually share this with others, right? And there are not so many couples like that. But I know that my father was looking for that. But he was looking for that in all the wrong places. Because that has to start from within ourselves. So now, I know it's our first podcast. If you ever see me in a relationship, it will be a divine union with purpose, where I found myself, he found himself, I'm aware of my triggers, I'm aware of all of my state of being, I'm not running away from them. And my commitment is when I'm with him, I'm at my best, and I'm there to share, because I have something within myself. I have love that I have to share. I won't be there to extract and expect him to make me happy. It will never happen. And that man will be also conscious of his own triggers, of his own defense mechanism and his own states of being. So that when he comes home and he starts saying, oh, your food is shitty. By the way, I don't cook.
Me too. Just hypothetical situation.
His level of awareness will be on that, level where as soon as he says that, he actually starts laughing. He's like, babe, it has nothing to do with you. It's me. I'm gonna go for a walk, I'm gonna remove myself and work on this state of being and understand where this narrative is coming from. So if I'm ever in a relationship, it will be a conscious man, or at least somebody who wants to get there, and he will see me glowing, because I will, like, this is my commitment. I will always be, if I'm with people around me, I'm at my best. If I'm by myself, it means I'm doing some inner work. That's my commitment to myself. And in a relationship, the man who will see that in me is like, wow, like, I'm with the goddess, I'm with the queen. Like, what is she doing? She's eternally fantastic. What is she doing? What is she smoking? And I say, come babe, meditate with me. I have something to share. Because the truth comes in stillness. Like, when we slow down, we stop talking, we stop fighting back, we stop blaming someone in the way we feel. We reconnect with our inner self, we dive within, we explore all those states of beings that we can experience as human beings. Because human experience is very diverse. We can be angry, we can be happy, we can be in love, we can feel fear, we can insecurity, animosity, stress, depression, like it's, or also joy, peace, love, like it's very diverse, right? So our job while we are in this physical body is to explore all of them. And then based on that exploration and knowledge, we start choosing the ones that we enjoy the most. That's true power, right? So now, like, doing all this inner work for 3 years, I finally achieved that level where, like, I always choose love. Like, I just always choose that state of being. And as soon as my mind starts creating a narrative that's not aligned with that frequency, I remove myself. My sister knows that. Like, my sister has been living with me for over a year. She knows very well, like, when I am choosing to be by myself, it has nothing to do with her. All I have for her and for her kids is love. If I choose to remove myself, it means that I'm not a resource to give love. It has nothing to do with her. Like, I need to remove myself to train my mind to see the situation differently, based on love. I go, I fix myself, and then I come back and I'm eternally fantastic because I choose love, because love is a choice, it's a conscious choice. I will never blame anyone for the way I feel, and that's my true power.